Have you ever felt the moment when the ground beneath you disappears, and everything you thought defined you is suddenly gone? A silence falls. The world keeps moving. But inside, you are standing in ruins. What if losing everything was not the end, but the beginning? Have you ever felt the world collapse beneath your feet so completely that you couldn't recognize the ground you were standing on? That night, I did. I remember the night clearly. Rain pelted against the window in relentless sheets, blurring the neon lights of the city into streaks of color, as if reality itself had melted. The hum of distant traffic and occasional sirens crept through the walls, indifferent to the chaos inside me. Yet within my chest a storm raged far fiercer than any thunder outside. Dreams I had nurtured for years crumbled like brittle paper. Relationships I had trusted dissolved like mist, and even my own reflection felt foreign, a stranger staring back with hollow eyes. I sank into the worn armchair in my small apartment, the fabric damp from the condensation of the rainy night. My fingers traced its fraying edges as if touching something real could tether me to existence. But there was nothing to hold on to. It was as if the universe had stripped me bare, leaving only the raw, trembling essence of who I was, or who I thought I was. A bitter draught sneaked through the slightly open window, brushing my skin like a ghost. I shivered and wrapped my arms around myself. The smell of wet asphalt and distant fires mixed with the faint aroma of my forgotten coffee on the counter. Each sensory detail, every scent, sound, and touch felt amplified, painfully intimate, almost accusatory. And then it came, the question whispered by the void inside me. Who am I when I have nothing left? I sat in silence. The words echoed like hollow chimes in a cathedral of emptiness. My mind raced, yet strangely, the storm outside began to mirror the quiet within. In that emptiness, a seed was planted, a fragile awareness that perhaps this collapse was not just an ending, but an invitation. As I stared out at the rain, the droplets racing down the glass reminded me of rivers carving valleys through mountains over eons. Nature, I realized, did not resist change, it flowed with it. Could I learn to flow too? Could I find my essence not in what I owned, what I achieved, or what others reflected back to me, but in the unshakable core beneath it all? The night stretched on, and I let myself breathe deeply, inhaling the cool, wet air, feeling the slow rise and fall of my chest. In the rhythm of my own breathing, I sensed a subtle shift, an inkling that even in ruin there might be something sacred, something I had been blind to. The collapse, I realized, was stripping away distractions, revealing the raw terrain where my true self might yet emerge. Yet the question remained, louder than ever. Who am I, when all I thought defined me is gone? The answer did not come that night, but I felt the pulse of possibility, like faint light through heavy clouds. And with that glimmer, a quiet determination stirred, a whisper of hope amidst the wreckage. Somewhere in the darkness, I understood. I had lost everything. And that very loss might be the key to finding what I was truly seeking. And as the rain continued to fall, I sensed that the journey was only beginning. Something awaited me beyond this collapse, a revelation I could not yet see, but one that would demand courage, surrender, and a willingness to meet myself fully. Pause. Let the silence and the rain linger in your mind, as if the world itself were holding its breath. I began walking without direction, through streets, through forests, through the corridors of my own mind. Every sound became louder, the crunch of leaves under my feet, the whisper of the wind, the beating of my own heart. Shadows moved alongside me. Some were familiar, faces I had worn in the past. Some were strange, twisting and shifting with emotions I couldn't name. Fear, regret, shame, loneliness. I felt the weight of every memory pressing against my chest, and yet I did not recoil. A river appeared, silver under a ghostly moonlight. Its surface trembled as if reflecting not only the sky, but my soul itself. I knelt, letting my fingers brush the water, and for the first time I felt the echo of something deeper, something alive. The water did not feel cold. It felt honest, pure. It mirrored the quiet truth I had been running from. I was still here even if everything else had vanished. I heard voices, soft, elusive, whispering lessons I had ignored. Surrender, let go, observe, trust. They were not commands. They were invitations. I tried to listen, but the whispers tangled with doubts. Could I truly face myself? Could I trust what was left when all else had fallen away? The forest thickened. The air grew heavy with the scent of wet earth and moss. A wind stirred, carrying with it a taste of rain and something undefinable. Freedom? Release? I inhaled deeply, letting the currents wrap around me. With every step, my body remembered what my mind had long forgotten. Sensation, pain, pleasure, presence. Then, the darkness shifted. It became not a wall, but a veil. Through it, I glimpsed flickers of light, tiny sparks of understanding, brief illuminations of compassion and clarity. Each spark called me closer, daring me to move beyond fear, beyond resistance. I realized I had been seeking light outside when it had been waiting within all along. Tears fell without shame. I felt grief, yes, but also relief. Something inside me loosened. A cord I had clutched for years snapped quietly. The shadows no longer mocked me. They bowed. They became guides, showing me the contours of my own soul. I began speaking to them, aloud and without reservation. I am here. I am listening. I am willing. The words carried weight, each syllable shaking the dust of old pain. The shadows leaned in closer, revealing the paths I had never dared walk. And I walked. Step by step, I descended, not into despair, but into myself. By the time dawn crept over the horizon, the world felt strange yet familiar. The air shimmered with a new clarity. I understood finally that the collapse had not destroyed me. It had unmasked me. I was learning, slowly, to trust the rhythm of my own heartbeat, to honor the silence, to see the unseen. I paused at the edge of a cliff overlooking a valley bathed in morning light. The wind carried whispers of promise and possibility. Somewhere deep within, I felt the first stirrings of a transformation, subtle, fragile, yet undeniable. A door had opened. I could not yet see what lay beyond, but I knew I would step through it. And with that step, the journey inward promised to reveal more than survival. It promised awakening. Then, something shifted. Not outside me, inside. A subtle tremor, a quiet crack in the armor I had built over decades. It was not loud, not violent, but undeniable. In the stillness, I sensed a presence, not a voice, not a figure, a knowing, a warmth that seeped into the deepest hollows of my being. I closed my eyes. The world faded. Rain tapping gently on leaves outside became a symphony of awakening. The wind carried whispers I could feel in my bones. Shadows danced along the walls of my mind, but they no longer frightened me. They bowed. They recognized me. The realization hit. I was never my titles, my possessions, my fleeting roles. I was the silence beneath, the witness, the breath that passed effortlessly through the chaos, the eternal flame untouched by loss, untouched by fear. I felt it in my chest first, a light expanding, warming, dissolving the hardened layers I thought were me. Each heartbeat became a drum of liberation. Each inhale a flood of clarity, each exhale a release of everything false. My skin tingled as though the universe itself had pressed its palms to my shoulders, urging me to stand taller, even while kneeling in surrender. I walked into the forest of my mind, or perhaps it walked into me. The earth smelled of rain and moss, rich and alive. Water trickled somewhere nearby, clear and honest, carrying secrets that had once frightened me. I reached for it. My fingers touched cold, living clarity. And for the first time I realized that fear was not my enemy. It was a teacher, a mirror, a guide to the self I had never dared to meet. Light poured through the cracks of my brokenness, splintering into colors I had long forgotten. Gold, violet, the green of deep roots. It touched memories I had buried, losses, betrayals, mistakes. And instead of pain, there was understanding. The illusion of separation shattered. I was whole. I felt the wind curl around my face, carrying scents of pine and distant rain. It whispered of vastness, of an eternal now. I was small, yes, but within me stretched an infinite expanse, a freedom that could not be named, only felt. And in that feeling, I knew I was ready. The shadows, the inner storms, the restless echoes, they did not disappear, but they became companions, teachers, proof of depth, proof of life lived fully, not in fear, but in awakening. And then I saw it, a doorway of light, not outside but within, a threshold that invited me to step fully into being, to surrender not to loss, but to truth, to breathe, knowing that every atom of me vibrated with a newfound clarity. I stood at the edge of that threshold, trembling, exhilarated, aware of everything I had carried and everything I was ready to release. A smile rose unbidden. It was not mine, not entirely. It was the smile of the self that had always existed, quietly waiting. I breathed again, and again. The world was infinite, and I was awake. Then the final whisper, "Step forward. All is waiting." And I knew. What awaited me beyond this point was the culmination of all I had lost and all I had found. When I finally looked at the world again, nothing had changed, and yet everything was different. The streets I had once walked with blind certainty now shimmered with a hidden glow, as if every crack in the pavement held the memory of stars. Faces I had passed without notice now spoke stories in their silence, and I saw them all, fear, hope, love, grief, reflected back in the vastness of my own heart. The wind carried whispers I had never heard before, not outside, but inside me. A song of release, a hymn of becoming. I closed my eyes and felt it sweep through my chest, lifting the weight of all I had clung to. The world was the same, yet my perception had been reborn. I walked to the river where water danced over stones as if celebrating a secret truth. I reached out my hand, and the coolness met my skin, not just a sensation but an awakening. It spoke of impermanence and surrender, of letting go and letting be. And in that flow I recognized the reflection staring back at me, not the self I had built through fear, ambition, and attachment, but the self that had always been, hidden beneath the layers of wanting, the quiet flame that cannot be extinguished. I remembered the darkness I had passed through, the collapse of everything familiar, the echo of loss in every corner of my life, and I realized it was not an end, but an unveiling, a peeling away of illusion. Each tear, each shattered plan, each heartbreak had been a gentle hand guiding me inward, toward the infinite within. I breathed. I let the silence fill me. I let it fill the world. And in that silence a profound truth rose like sunlight, breaking over a horizon I had never dared to imagine. I am not my possessions. I am not my roles. I am not the stories told about me, or the ones I told myself. I am the witness, the space in which life moves, the calm beneath the storm. The forest around me seemed alive in a new way. Leaves trembled with secret laughter. Branches reached for the sky, yet bowed with humility. The scent of earth and rain spoke of beginnings, of renewal. I felt the same earth beneath my feet, yet I was untethered, free and weightless in the gravity of understanding. And then I laughed, not at the world, not at myself, but at the sheer brilliance of being alive. I had lost everything, and in that loss I had discovered the unshakable core of who I truly am. No condition, no circumstance, no failure could touch it. The world and I met as equals now. No need to grasp, no need to resist, no need to become, simply to be. And in being everything I had ever sought, peace, love, clarity, freedom was already here, already me. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with fire and promise, I understood at last. Awakening is not an arrival. It is a gentle remembering, a turning back to the self that was always waiting. And in that knowing, I felt infinite. I stepped forward, carrying nothing but the light within me. And I whispered into the wind, into the silence, into the water, into the world itself. The heart that loses all finds everything.